what nourishes your soul. And the things that nurture and nourish are the things that you're going to do more of. This is the phase where we don't necessarily want to go and do hit workouts, right? It's like more time for yoga and Pilates and something like slowing down because that's going to fill your cup more.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Amy Woodall and the Collective. I'm Amy Woodall, and we are so happy that you have landed here with us today. The whole premise of this show was to create a bridge between the seekers and the teachers. And in Conscious Conversations, we simply want to talk about real aspects of life that we are all faced with: the joys, the triumphs, the challenges, the stuck points, whether that's at work or at home or in the world at large. I believe that everyone who is listening to this show really gives a damn about being a good human from the inside out. And we want to bring you conversations that matter and help you do just that. Hey, everybody. Selfishly, I have to say that this episode, I may just be asking all of my own personal questions and wanting insights for myself. I would say this episode isn't just for the ladies. I think men, if you live with or love women, this is an episode that you're going to want to take a listen to as well, because women's health affects all of us. And our guest today is a wealth of knowledge in this area. She is an entrepreneur. She is a women's fertility and women's health expert. Dr. Aumatma Simmons is joining us today. I was asking her if she sleeps, and she's like, "Oh, don't worry. I get plenty of sleep." She is in the middle of writing a book that is about hormonal leadership, and she has a startup app, an application that's coming out that is free, that's all about women navigating the root cause of their fertility or potentially infertility, called Madre. I am just so happy to have you join the show today and to pick your brain and to learn all things women's health, hormones, babies, all of the stuff.
Thank you so much for having me, Amy. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. Can I ask, like, what is the women's health is such a broad, almost like unknown, uncharted territory, because from my limited understanding, women weren't really studied. We really haven't gotten a ton of investments in understanding our health like we have for men, that we were seen as young or smaller men for a very long time. So we have been understudied. Is there a hill that's we're gonna start off with the big question, right? Is there a hill that's like the hill you'll die on, of like, if I could just go out and teach every woman or every person in the world X about women's health?
Oh gosh.
I
What
know. What jumps
hill?
out at
I
you?
have too many hills. I have too many. But I think one of the big ones, because I've been working on this book and it's kind of center focus in my brain right now, is this idea that for as long as I know, for as long as history has prevailed, we are and have accepted and internalized this idea that, oh, we're just men in different bodies and our hormones are something to be ashamed of and kind of push to the side, or like figure out how can I control it, instead of really understanding that our hormones are in so many ways our superpower. And I think that frame of mind and really understanding that our physiology is very different than male physiology, like very, very, very different. We have some overlap, but at the core of it, our hormones are completely on a different cycle. And our cycle is more like a 28-day cycle on average, 24 to 32. But the male cycle is a 24-hour clock. And when you bring that into the space of corporations, entrepreneurship, business, all of the ideas that forever I've had coaches and they've always been men, and they're like, "Oh, you just need to go harder, grind harder, sleep less," right? And this idea that comes out of hustle culture is a very masculine idea. So, where is the feminine in this? And how do we approach business and entrepreneurship and even work and being the boss from a feminine centric physiology? Right. So that's what I've been like trying to wrap my head around. And part of my process with it is writing a book about it because I'm already doing all this research and I am blown away by how our hormones are just so different and they function very differently. But, you talk to most women and they're like, oh, I'm hormonal, like, oh, yeah, it's a hormone thing. And we're almost ashamed of it. So, part of my mission in this world is like, how do I reclaim, like, yeah, I'm freaking hormonal and I'm proud of it. And I'm not ashamed that I'm hormonal because I actually source my vital life force and energy and like vitality out of my hormones.
I love this hill. I'm climbing it with you, sister. And this is why it's so important for men to listen. Our work lives of, even like for the high achiever. And, I know that you work with a lot of high achievers who maybe they are looking to start a family, or maybe they're just looking to understand kind of where their health is and what that time frame or snapshot looks like for them. But as someone who is a high achiever, it felt like I always had to keep up with whatever the biohacking was, and like you have to own your morning and you got to get up at 4:30 or 5, you need to be in the gym. And I would often feel like I just am not disciplined enough, it means I've just gotta stay on top of it more, and then, when you understand that women do not operate like men, that men operate on a 24-hour cycle and women operate on a 28-day average cycle, it's so unfair that us women have kind of held ourselves hostage, not intentionally, we just didn't know any better, to performing exactly like a man, and I could go on, but I think the hard thing even for me, I was sharing I'll be very candid to, the audience. I'm like, "I am in my luteal phase," and this is the phase where you're tired and I have no energy and, all of these pieces, and I'm starting to be like, What should I do and not do during this time?" Should I be starting new projects? Should we do recording podcasts? Like, what are the things that work and don't work? But even that, there's a bit of a shame that I have to pay attention to because I've been conditioned to think that if I can't be on at all times, then there's something wrong with me.
Yeah, and like it's not anything wrong with you, but like I love to ask the question in my late luteal phase, I'm always asking the question, is this going to feed me or is this going to drain me? And that makes it really easy to not say yes to things that I should really be saying no to, right? So for some people, a conversation and a podcast recording might feel like, oh, this is going to like nurture my soul. And in that case, absolutely do it. But if you're the type of person that's like, "Oh my god, I really just need to not have this conversation," then find a way to, like, reprioritize and shift. And I usually do that planning in my follicular phase. So, the start of my menstrual cycle, I look at my calendar for the next 4 weeks and I say, "Okay, based on where I am on cycle day 1, what do I need to shift?" So then I can, like, people are always like, why did you reschedule, like, so far in advance?" And I'm like, "Well, I just know where I'm gonna be on that day in my cycle, and I'm not having it. Like, we're not doing this on that day." And they're like, "Oh, okay. I guess that's fine," but it's easy when you have, like, weeks in advance that you can prep and you can be like, "No, that's not gonna happen."
I'd love to dig into it a little bit more. And even for it's not like we are raised and being like, hey, here's even what the weeks of your cycle mean, and here's what you're gonna experience, and here's where you're more powerful. I don't want to say powerful. Here's where you're more creative versus maybe more reflective. Can we go through for the person listening who's like, what is the luteal phase? I don't understand. Can we go through and name them and also share like what can we expect with our energy level, with our focus, etc. And I'm sure, you may have a lot of pieces where you're like, well, if our hormones are balanced or if we're, I'm sure there'll be plenty of caveats to that, but what are they? What are the cycles?
Yeah, let's go through it. So we'll start with the menstrual phase. So cycle day 1 is the start of your menses, and that's going to be where your hormones are at their lowest. So all of the hormones kind of flatline in that like menstrual period. So the first like 3, 4, 5 days of our cycle, our hormones are going to be at their lowest point. You don't necessarily have to do this the entire menstrual phase, but at least the first couple of days are really powerful for intuition, for going inwards, for like I said, this is a time where I'm looking at my schedule and I'm saying, "Oh, 3.5 weeks from now, I'm not really gonna wanna do that thing, so let me reschedule it now," so that, I don't piss anybody off. So, a really good time for reflection, intuition, figuring out what are your priorities for the next month, right? And I do this one of my tools is like the important and urgent, urgent but not important, or sorry, no, it'll be important and not urgent. It's like a 4 quadrant little thing. So I make my priorities for the month, right? And it's a lot of coaches have said, "Oh, you need to do this every day." But me being who I am and understanding that we're on a 28-day clock, I'm like, "No, I want my priorities for the period of time that I'm in this cycle." And I wanna get those on down on paper or whatever so that I can keep refocusing my energy on the most important things. So, that's what I'm usually doing in that, like, first 3 days of the menstrual phase. And then by cycle day 5, our hormones are slowly starting to increase. So testosterone rises first and then estrogen. So testosterone is going to give you a boost of energy. You're suddenly like, oh yeah, I'm feeling it. Like I want to go work out. I want to go lift a bunch of weights. I want to be out in the world. And all of those things are gonna keep rising. And then estrogen, I call the superwoman hormone because it just makes us feel like we're on fire, right? Like you are in the world, you're magnetic, you're just like full of vivacious energy, and you bring the fullness of yourself into the world. Estrogen is gets such a bad rap. And I'm like, estrogen is what makes us so amazing all the freaking
Mm.
time.
I feel
So
like I feel like testosterone, like people will say like testosterone is gonna make you feel amazing, and I feel like we give it to the dude hormone. Like, that's just the patriarchy. That's what it is.
testosterone will have you feeling good, but it's really that estrogen that adds the flavor of the feminine, right? So and testosterone converts to estrogen. So if you're making testosterone, you're converting it into estrogen. And estrogen is that, like, magnetizing hormone, so I love during this time period, the rest of the follicular phase, essentially, I love being able to go network. I love meeting new people, making new connections. Who is it that I need to be in connection with to fulfill on what feeds my soul? Whether that is the important list of priorities that I have for the month, or just, like, friendships and things that just nurture me, right? Those are the things that I'm gonna prioritize during the rest of that follicular phase, and honestly, like, ovulation period is, technically a one-day event, but the 3 days before and 4 days after can still have that, like, ovulation energy. So during that time period, I am going to continue the energy of follicular, and it's like magnetizing more. So ovulation is like the peak. It's sometimes equated to summer energy. So you're bubbly, you're light, like days are long, you're getting so much done. You're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Sorry, I forgot the seasons. So season one, where we're starting with menstrual, is winter. And then we have spring where things are starting to blossom, and then summer, which ovulation time. Those are kind of the seasons, and then the last season is fall, and fall is probably the trickiest season because in nature, what we do in fall is harvest everything that we planted, right? We planted all of these things, they grew, there's all these roots that we can harvest, and we're conserving our resources for what is to come in the winter. If we don't conserve well, we run out of resources. So, if we didn't plant enough things and or we didn't harvest, then sorry, you're gonna be out of resources in the winter. And that's where you're gonna start feeling really crappy. You have the symptoms that go with menstrual cycle, you're in pain, you've got cramps. And not that all of it is how we are being, but a lot of it is shifted very quickly when we are able to resource well. So if we plan that fall phase really well, we are going to do as much conservation as possible. And that's where I like to ask this question of like, what nourishes your soul? And the things that nurture and nourish are the things that you're going to do more of. This is the phase where we don't necessarily want to go and do hit workouts, right? It's like more time for yoga and Pilates and something like slowing down because that's going to fill your cup more than the things that are more outwardly focused energy, like you're losing energy rather than gaining. So, being mindful of that and then nurturing also in the sense of food. So, a lot of people that are like, "Oh, I do paleo, I do carnivore, I do this and that diet," and they're missing the complex carbohydrates that are really going to nurture our body. So, they're depleting their hormones faster when they are on these, like, super restricted diets. That week before our menstrual cycle is all of the things that nurture, and this doesn't mean ice cream, but it does mean, like, what healthy things do I need to add to my diet? Is it brown rice? Is it a baked potato, a baked sweet potato? Whatever works for our bodies, those are the things that we're going to want to make sure we're filling up on so that we don't go into winter depleted. So those are great. And then in the work context, we really want fall to be about reviewing what are the things that I did well? What are the things that got accomplished? Is there things that are still like hanging out that were part of priorities that I could like quickly close out? And is there anything that became apparent about what is no longer a necessity, a need, a priority that I actually need to say no to? And we struggle so much with this, right? Like, it's hard to say no, and when we're in this, like, superwoman phase, spring and summer, we're like, "Yeah, let's do that," and, "Yeah, totally, let's do that," and that, and that, and before you know it, your schedule is packed, and you're like, "What just happened?" And you get to fall and you feel like there's a rub of, "Hey, there's some things that I said yes to that are out of alignment, and I didn't realize because I was in this, like, super vivacious energy, and I didn't realize that I was saying yes to too much." I was saying yes to taking care of all the things and all the people and all the, like, to-do things that are on my list, and now that we're in fall, it's coming to surface what is out of alignment. So, if you think of what's happening in nature, trees are losing their leaves, and if you're in a forest where the leaves have fallen, you're going to be able to see much more clearly through to the other side. And that's what's happening in our bodies, right? Our body's saying, "Whoa, we said yes to way too many things, and now that things are clear, I'm like, oh crap, I really shouldn't have said yes." And in those moments, it's really like, if you are honoring yourself, then you are finding ways to realign your priorities. And sometimes you're saying, "Okay, I realize that this is not a good priority for me," or, like, "This is not a priority or an important thing on my to-do list right now, but I committed to it and I value the relationship, so I'm choosing to do it." You're making those decisions way more conscious. And honestly, like, the hardest thing is to just for me, I find is like, how do I say no to these things, right? I committed. I'm like messaging my friends like, "Hey, I love you, but can we reschedule for a week and a half?" And like pushing out some of the things that are less important because I really need to be more mindful of my reserves. And if those things are gonna be depleting, then they're the wrong things. And I find out that when women have PMS, it's often they have overcommitted themselves and they don't know how to get out of it. Or they're discontent, like, you're in your superwoman phase, and I'm like, "I can do everything. I'll do the dishes and the laundry and this and that." And then you get to your luteal phase and your partner is like, "Well, why aren't you doing those things now?" And you're feeling resentful now because you're like, "But I already did all of these things." And that resentment is really you not asking for your needs and you not being able to say like, "Hey, here's my boundary and I'm gonna need some support." So it, like, challenges all of the superwoman tendencies amongst us, especially for high achievers. I'm like, "Oh my god, I have to just power through it." And every time you power through it, that PMS is getting worse and worse and worse because PMS is really the signal of like, "Hey, things went out of alignment, and this is your, like, reset point." And if you're not resetting, it's just gonna get worse the next cycle, and it's gonna get worse the cycle after that.
Ladies, imagine taking time away to work on you. Meditation, yoga, transformational work, a chance to have grand adventures and build lasting relationships. Desiree Garcia and I founded High Vibe Tribe Retreats to create just that. And if you're curious about joining us on our next retreat, head over to highvibetriberetreat.com, link in the show notes. I think something newer, I wish I would have known this at a younger age, is like my body is really designed to help me. And even these signals are designed to help me. And we often think that it's working against us, that cramps are a curse of being a woman or other PMS symptoms. It's often if a woman is in a bad mood, oh, she's PMSing. It's kind of, as you mentioned, like we don't see the superpower of our hormones. Many of us don't even understand how they work. We don't necessarily track it. We aren't always, paying attention to just to even how we're feeling. And I think one of the most important things in our lives is that we come back into our own discernment of like listening, like, what is my body telling me? What does it want me to know? What insights is it giving to me? So I love how you're sharing this of the winter and the spring and the fall, just like what's expected of us. Even in my brain, as you were mentioning it, I was like, okay, so all my creative work should be done in the follicular phase in the spring and in the summer. And just really identifying what's a good way to map things out so that we can set ourselves up for success and not exhaustion. For women who are like, "Well, this all sounds nice, but I work for a company and I do, my calendar is very heavy and I have a hard time, being able to decide what I can say yes and no to." Are there baby steps? What recommendation might you have if somebody would like to honor this but maybe doesn't have the freedom to do so?
Yeah, I get that question so frequently, and there is actually a lot more control that you have in your schedule than you realize, even for women that are in the corporate world. And the reason I say this is because you are saying yes to, oh, there's this happy hour thing. Do you need to go to that? Is this the right time in your cycle to go to that? Are, is that going to feed your soul? Probably not. Right? So you're forcing yourself to do these like extracurricular things that are on your plate that you don't actually want to do. And those are the easiest things to knock off of your calendar. Yes, I committed to that, but right now is not a good time. Or just like my partner needs something, I need to get out of here. You still have to go to work, quote unquote, but you don't necessarily have to say yes to all the extra things. So that's one. Get rid of all the extras. Even if those extras might even be like, "Oh, I planned a friend date and I'm feeling exhausted and actually need some downtime." In those moments, it's okay to be like, "I love you, can we reschedule?" Right? And those are, like, tricky because you're like, "Well, maybe I'll feel better if I go see my friend." Really check in with yourself and say, "Do I need downtime or do I need to go out?" And I often find, like, in those periods, there's always that, like, leftover energy of buzz that I'm like, "Oh, but I could probably swing it." And then I come home and I'm like, "Damn it, I shouldn't have done that." I feel more exhausted than when I went than before I left, you know? So, the easy things, fall them off of your calendar. Then you get to potentially the extra things that are being asked of you that you are like, "Well, that's not actually my job." And in other parts of your cycle, you might be like, "I could swing that. Yeah, no problem. I'll do that extra little thing." But during that phase, you're like, "No, sir." Like, "No, thank you. I will be happy to support you in 2 weeks, but right now, that's a no." So, having more stronger boundaries and saying no to more things that are not really part of your necessities at work. So, filtering away those things. And then we get to the things like meetings that take up endless amounts of time, but often don't feel very accomplishing of things. In your time of fall, you might opt to get out of those meetings. You say to your boss, "Hey, can I send you a quick summary instead of us meeting?" And your boss is like, "Yeah, you're saving me 30 minutes of time. That sounds awesome. Please send me a summary." Or, "Can I record you a quick 2-minute video?" Right? Like, there's so many ways that you can kind of do your job, still, like, show up fully, and still opt out of the things that are feeling like, "Oh, this is such a drag." So those types of things, and then at home, it's really about where are you asking for support? And actually, sorry, I should have said this about work too, like, where are you asking your team for support, right? And during that fall period, you could potentially be saying to your team, "Hey, I really need you guys to do XYZ. I need reports on these things." You are actively asking for feedback, reports, and the harvest, quote unquote, if you are leading a team, if you're the CEO, the boss, whatever. A lot of the women that I work with are. So during that time, your time is actually spent really well reviewing what is being done well and what isn't being done well, and where do you need to refocus and shift your team. So those are things that you could actually spend your time doing. You're still working, but you're gonna get higher amounts of ROI from that than team meetings and networking and, like, doing all the externally focused things that we often feel like we need to do.
Well, it's so much of a it's a paradigm shift in our mind. I think so much of it is learning how to give ourselves permission to do what is best without the guilt, because we've developed a lot of rules wrapped around our yeses that may not be real rules. They're just kind of these pretend rules that we made up that we continue to play by. Like, I can't say no. Well, why not? What happens if you do? We kind of create this ripple effect, and we can't ever prove it wrong if we don't try the opposite. The only thing we can do is continue to prove that that belief system is right. And so I think along this way of women learning how to operate, how to lead, according to their cycles and really making their hormones their superpowers, I'm sure as you've experienced, it's part knowledge and then it's part permission. But both of those things, I'm sure, have to come together for women to opt out of that 24-hour cycle, that have been built into in the workplace.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would love to know, I mean, fertility is your expertise, shifting gears a little bit. What are you noticing right now? I mean, Is there a challenge where it's like, wow, more women are experiencing fertility challenges than ever before? This is clearly a specialty and a passion of yours. You've got the app, you've got your clinic. There's, so much of your time is spent talking about fertility. And so I would love to just know, what are we missing the bus on? What do women need to know about fertility in particular?
Yeah, thank you for that. This is another hill that I will die on,
Okay, great. I'm so glad we get 2 hills in one episode. It's so good.
and the hill is that fertility is not a female problem. I don't care what the problems are on either side. It is the both of you that is creating this little human. It is the both of you that are equally responsible for taking action that will support the creation. So, it is very much a collaborative process unless you're a solo mom by choice, whole different story, but outside of that scenario, it is so important that your partner is in on this experience the entire time. And that 50% or like 49.6% of fertility issues are male factor fertility issues. So the number of women that I see who are like, "Oh, I've been struggling for fertility for 3 years." And I'm like, "Okay, show me your man's sperm." And they're like, "What? 3 years? You don't have this guy is not even tested his sperm?"
Mm.
Right? Like, that to me is like our patriarchy at its worst. It is, "Oh, it's the female, it's the woman, it's the woman." And the woman is doing everything in her freaking power, and the guy hasn't done one single step. "Oh my god, I have to give sperm?" Like, that sucks. Yeah, I'm like, "Suck it up, dude. She's already had, like, 800 needles in her body. Like, you can suck it up." So that's I think that's the first thing that I'll say. The second is that, yes, couples are struggling in higher and higher numbers with fertility. And the, like, stats on this right now are couples between the ages of 18 and 35. 1 in 5 couples are struggling with fertility. When I started 15 years ago, it was 1 in 8. So the numbers have drastically gone up. Part of that, I think, is coinciding with the fact that sperm numbers are, like, massively on a decline. They're getting worse and worse and worse. Testosterone is getting lower and lower and lower in men. So, we are seeing men's health coincide with women's health in this, like, fertility space, which I think makes the perfect storm for fertility issues, right? It's like hormones are out of whack on the female side. Men are like, "Why is my testosterone so low? Why is my body not producing sperm?" And what we don't realize is that there's enough little things happening on both sides that are, like, coinciding to create this, like, massive fertility crisis around the world.
We could go on about health for forever because I am not a health expert, but here is a hill that I will die on just as someone who has a body, and has to figure this out, is that there's so many specialties and we don't see the body as like this thing that is all connected. It's like, "Oh, we have a doctor that's just for the ear," which is great. I'm so glad that somebody knows how my ears work. But if I'm having consistent ear issues and we don't look at, like, could it be connected to gut health? There's not always the through line of root cause. And I know clearly from the app that you've developed, this root cause oriented app that helps you figure out why you may be experiencing fertility challenges, that you really want to get to the root of it. And so, do you see this rise as being environmental? Is it the stuff we're putting on our skin, the stuff we're putting in our body? I'm just, yeah, curious. Do you kind of have a pinpoint of why you think the infertility is on the rise?
I think on the male side, there is quite a lot to do with toxins. So, because we are seeing this, like, increase in using plastic literally everywhere, and a major component of plastic is bisphenol compounds, which basically mimic estrogen in the body. They feed back loop back to the brain and say, "Hey, we have too much estrogen," which then gives the signal to the body to stop making testosterone because testosterone converts to estrogen. So it's like a negative feedback loop with the estrogen that is like just, it's not actually estrogen. It's just these compounds that mimic estrogen. They don't act like estrogen, but you're going to have the negative feedback loops are happening in both the men and women. So a really easy like shift is to stop exposing yourself to these compounds as much as possible. And it's going to start with like stainless steel water bottles, glass containers. Stop using the plastic laden nonstick cookware. So there's so many things that are actually very much in our power. And I think that those are contributing a lot to the male factor issues and the lowering of testosterone that I think is actually relatively easy to turn around. So I think that's part of it. The other part is that we're seeing a massive rise in the use of antibiotics we have for years and years. And it's finally catching up to us from a place of gut dysbiosis, which then causes hormonal dysfunction. There's a bunch of bacteria in the gut that basically like here are all these trash bags of hormones to for the body to take out and release. And instead of taking out those trash bags, these bacteria basically like open the trash bags up and are like, let's fling it all around the house. And then it will just like recirculate these hormones that were actually tagged as trash. So they will cause kind of a massive uprise in hormonal dysfunction. So a lot of it is in the gut. And then the other is that if you have gut microbiome issues, it's going to affect your vaginal microbiome. And that's sort of the cutting edge in fertility at the moment is how the presence or absence of specific microbiota in our vaginas are either going to support implantation and a healthy human being grown, or unfortunately, like kicking it out and causing a pregnancy loss, or like just not having implantation happen at all. So those are the big ones that I think we're not focused on. And then I think there's about 8 or 9 other root causes that are very common. Things like blood sugar and insulin dysfunction, cortisol dysregulation, which, hello, stress and all the things that are causing out of that. We can talk about circadian rhythm dysfunction because we're on screens till later and later at night. It's messing with our production of melatonin, which then affects the cortisol in the morning. So we see a lot of couples that have kind of flat lines of cortisol. Their body just doesn't make it anymore. Or their body makes it and like tags it for trash way quicker than it should. So it's kicking it out just like, "Oh, we made it, let's get rid of it. Made it, get rid of it." And we need a certain degree of cortisol to be able to function, but we need it to be in balance at the right points in the day. And if we have too much at night, then we can't make melatonin, which is gonna be the restorative hormone, and it like melatonin is really the it's one of my favorite hormones for fertility because it just rejuvenates the ovaries and testes. So you're gonna have, like, better egg quality, better sperm quality if you're making good amounts of melatonin.
So fascinating.
Yeah.
The body's so fascinating, the way that it operates. And just to hear even the challenges that are set up, I mean, I am okay, I'm knocking on wood right now, okay, because my boys are older. They're 19 and 20. And I'm like, we are beyond having could we? Yes. Will we? Absolutely not. But I'm thinking of, in the years to come as my boys and their, whomever they choose to marry just the odds that sound like they're very much stacked against them. I don't want to say that in a negative way, but I think it requires a greater consciousness and awareness. And this really ties into our whole conversation, whether it is women, kind of fitting ourselves into this box and and not operating from our most optimal place of wherever our hormones are, having consciousness around that, or having a greater consciousness around how just what is normal habits in the day-to-day lives of people are really stacking the odds of fertility against you. It sounds like it's so important that we have awareness, discernment, consciousness, and we can make small changes. And so I know you mentioned shift away from plastic as much as you can. Like get to glass, get to aluminum as much as you can. Is there another small shift that you recommend for people if they're like, okay, I think I have all of those. I think I'm on my phone too much. I think, is there another small shift that can help people get their bodies more prepared?
Yeah, I think, looking at the toxins that are in your environment, and another big, hormone mimicker is called phthalates, and phthalates are basically in all of the things that have fragrance. So if you turn it over and you see fragrance, it's usually the last ingredient. Sometimes they will hide it under the word parfum, Parfum.
It sounds fancier. It's French, right?
And you're like, "Oh, yeah, it's European, it must be fine." No, it's not. So it's these hidden phthalates that are going to go in and have an impact on our hormones. With men, I find it very interesting that they are obsessed with their cars, right? And almost every guy that I've ever dated had air fresheners in his car.
Oh, the black ice, you know? Yeah.
I met my husband, he would have these air fresheners, and I was like, "You gotta get rid of this. Like, we can't be having this in the car." So, like, really making sure that the things that smell good are often using these chemicals that are going to interact and disrupt our hormone balance for men and women. So these are things that are really easy to get rid of. And then on the female side, there's one thing that I think not only helps with fertility, but honestly will, like, improve the quality of your life, is getting rid of tampons and pads. And the reason for that is that most of the plants that are sprayed with glyphosate is, essentially a microbiome disruptor, so it kills all of the good bacteria. We know that it kills the good bacteria in the gut when it's sprayed on fruits and vegetables. So this is why, like, organic food is ideal and important, but it's also sprayed on cotton, which is what turns into pads and tampons. And a lot of people will message me and say, "Oh my god, but what about organic?" And I'm like, "Be really hesitant about what says is organic because you'll turn it over and it'll be like 5% organic cotton or something like that, right? Like somewhere on the label, it'll be like tiny, tiny letters on the back, but the front says organic. And you're like,
Wow.
"Oh, it's fine."
Wow, who knew? What's a better alternative then? If it's, don't worry, guys, it's not free bleeding, not yet. We haven't the matriarchy hasn't taken over to that degree yet. What is your recommendation?
Uh, so their recommendation is either like period cups or discs or organic cotton panties, like period panties, basically. So there are lots of options now. There was not 20 years ago, but I think that we've made a lot of headway. And the young women these days are like, "Oh my God, discs are amazing." And I'm like, "What the hell? How do you even make that work?" No, thank you. So find what works for you. All of it is welcome, but you're getting like medical grade silicone, essentially, is what those are made out of. They're reusable. You're lowering the environmental impact that pads and tampons have that they don't disintegrate or degrade for decades. So you're reducing waste and you're supporting your body. And this is like mind-blowing stat. 80% of women will see like a half or higher decline in period cramps from making this one shift within 1 to 2 cycles. So It's wild. People come back all the time and they're like, "You got rid of my period pain. I thought I had endometriosis. It's gone." And I'm
Wow.
like, "Yeah,
Wow.
it was the glyphosate." So,
There's already, like, women that I know that I'm like, "Okay, I need to go tell them all about this," and I could keep this conversation going forever because 'cause I'm just so curious about there's just so much we don't know, and what I hope our listeners take away is whether this is let's say you're a woman, right, in the workplace, and you're an owner. We have a lot of entrepreneurs, we have a lot of executives that listen to this, to know that your hormones really do affect how effective we can be, effective, quote unquote, how energetic we can be, that they really do run the show and they're beautiful. We just got to understand them and make a great relationship with them, right? And if you've got people in your life who are in that reproductive, that's a goal for them in that reproductive stage, and it affects all areas of our life, to just understand, what are the conditions and what are we faced with and what are small changes that can make a difference? Because if it changes anything for the positive in our personal lives, it's going to have a ripple effect in our lives everywhere else. Will you tell us a little bit about this app, kind of who it's for and where people can find it?
yeah, totally. So the app is for men and women that want to optimize their hormones, potentially plan for fertility, or are struggling with fertility. So you can be as young as 19 going to the app, trying to, like, say, "Is there some changes that I could make that just help me stack the odds in my favor 10 years down the line?" Right? The sooner you make these changes, the better for your entire life and better for when you do wanna get pregnant. And then, of course, for all the people that are like, "Hey, I'm starting out on my fertility journey. I just wanna make sure that I'm doing all the right things. What could I do better? What do I need to focus on? What should I take as far as supplements goes?" It's all in there. The main analysis is free. This is what people pay me and my brain like $3,000 to analyze. It's free.
I love that. That's
So
amazing.
Um, and then if you choose to take action, it's, like, really affordable for supplements and all of that based on what's actually happening for you. So, theoretically, could you use this for all stages of life, for health in general? Absolutely. But it's really, like, we're focused on this, like, fertility, pre-fertility period of time where we see that there's, like, such a need for people to have real answers and for all of the women that are out there that are like, "Oh my god, I take a bag full of supplements. What do I do with all these supplements?" And most of the time I look at the supplements that they're taking and I'm like, "This is garbage, garbage, garbage. Okay, maybe keep that one, but the rest of it is garbage." And really hone in on the things that are going to get you a result rather than shooting in the dark and hoping that one of those things is the right thing. So, that's what the app is for.
Love that, and it's Madre, and they can find it anywhere on any app store.
Not quite. So you wanna do the analysis on the web app, which is madrefertility.com, and then like, if you decide, like, based on the analysis, you're like, "Yeah, I wanna do this, I wanna, like, do what all the things it says," then it'll be downloadable from that point forward.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you. I hope our listeners, no matter whether you're male, female, where you are in your life, we can understand that hormones run the show for us. They are so incredibly important in our health and our happiness and our productivity and all of the things. And I hope our listeners come and find you. I know you're on Instagram. I know you're on LinkedIn from time to time. Is there anywhere else that you would like our listeners to come and find more about the work you're doing?
Yeah, totally. Like, maybe we'll drop them the link for the pre-release for the book. I'm working on, like, whoever's interested. If I said something that was like, "Ooh, I wanna read more about that," like, get signed up on that list so I can send you the first chapter for free and then just be in touch about when the book is gonna come out and things like that.
Awesome. We'll have all of that in the show notes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Just grateful for your time, your energy, your insight. I got some looking to do on my calendar. I got some rescheduling and moving around to do on my calendar. So thank you for just, yeah, that inspiration and the permission to do so. Greatly, greatly appreciated.
Yeah. It's so great to be here. Thank you for having me, Amy.
Thank you for listening to Conscious Conversations. We are so grateful that you've spent this time with us. And if you loved this episode, we invite you to consider liking, sharing, rating, reviewing the show so that more people can find us. And if you have the desire to connect with more like-hearted humans like you on this planet, come join us in the PFN community under Conscious Conversations.